pleasant afternoon to you all. Hello. Thank you. My name is Verengai Mabika, all the way from Zimbabwe. And maybe I'll start by sharing a very interesting story that happened yesterday that shows how different our worlds are. So we arrived in Austin around midnight yesterday and went straight to check in at our hotel, JW Marriott. And so we went to the reservation table, and then the guy said, "Can I have your credit card, because I need to charge like a security deposit to your room." So from where I come from, we don't use credit cards. We actually do use debit cards, but I had no credit card, and so I said, well, we can pay with cash. We actually brought some cash. And he said, the hotel policy doesn't allow us to accept cash. So you have to find someone, maybe one of your friends, so that we can charge their credit card to your account. So we spent something like an hour. An hour, but we ended up getting the manager explaining, and then we managed to get the keys. So this just shows how different our worlds are. So I'm here today to talk about how Bitcoin deployment is going to be very slow in Africa. And we do have some reasons why it's going to be slow. Bitcoin is both a technology and also a currency. But the focus of this presentation will look at Bitcoin as a currency. So Africa has so many problems. And the focus for now is actually to get the majority of our people out of poverty. We have epidemics. The Ebola is one recent epidemic that we talk about. We have serious crisis with access to water, and financial services, or access to financial services, is absolutely not on that list. So this could be one of the reasons why Bitcoin might take a little bit longer to be adopted in Africa. We also do have very serious problems with our political systems. Tawanda, in just the previous panel, he mentioned, or maybe talked a bit about how corrupt our systems are. The concept around Bitcoin is, the model around Bitcoin is, decentralization. But in Africa, the leaders really want to centralize the power. So we also think that this could be one of the big reasons why Bitcoin adoption and mainstreaming Bitcoin in Africa would take longer than expected. When I first got into the Bitcoin, when I was introduced into Bitcoin, this was last year, one of the things that I was reminded that, you are just supposed to don't invest as much as as much as you cannot lose. So when you want to buy Bitcoins or do some transaction, just use money that you can't afford to lose. So I sort of sacrificed to use some of my few extra dollars to just experiment how this technology was was working on quite a number of the developments that we see today. And for Africa, close to 80% of our population actually don't have a reasonable disposable income. Quite a number of our population live on less than $2 a day. And experimenting with Bitcoin will certainly be not on that list. We also have very serious economic problems. There's a common statement which says Africa is resource rich, but capacity poor. What this says is we have not been able to transform the lives of many people in Africa, even if we do have those resources. And we actually do have some classic examples where even financial institutions, for example, in my country, 2 banks have closed since the beginning of this year. So this is like 3 months, and 2 banks have already closed down. And some of the reasons also include mismanagement and corrupt activities. But we also think that the economic fundamentals are not ripe enough for such technologies. There is also a very interesting concept around the cultural issues in Africa. Most of the technologies that we have in Africa is actually foreign. But what's interesting about these technologies is that most of our entrepreneurs actually do copy and paste the technologies exactly as they are. And most of them are not quite compatible with our systems, our community, our value systems. And that, again, is a very serious problem. I can also highlight one example where about 80% of the people that we have in Africa use feature phones, but the technology itself, the Bitcoin technology, also is built to be supported by smartphones. Another reason, or maybe this could be my last reason, is that the prerequisite infrastructure is not there to support Bitcoin. Internet penetration rate is very low, and in fact, from those statistics, we can see that 1 person out of 10 have got access to internet. And for these reasons, I strongly believe that Bitcoin will deployment in Africa will be very, very low. Tawanda, what do you think?
Thank you, Verengai. How do you use this thing? How do I go? Thank you. So when Mr. Verengai tells us that Bitcoin adoption in Africa will take longer than we think, I think he's right. But I would also want to talk about, to tell you guys a parable of an entrepreneur who goes to a very rural village to open a shoe shop. So he goes there to sell shoes. And then he realizes there that all the people in this village don't have shoes. So he says, the people here don't have shoes. They have no need for shoes. I won't have any business here, so I'm going to open my shop elsewhere, and he leaves. And then another entrepreneur goes to this village, and he sees everyone doesn't have shoes. And then he says, what? The people here don't have shoes. I'm going to make a lot of money here, and he opens shop. But the interesting thing is both entrepreneurs are right. So when you say, applying this to Bitcoin, when you say Africa has so many problems, Bitcoin adoption is probably going to be slow, you are right. And if you try to get into Bitcoin and you don't believe you'll make, if you don't believe we can make it, you won't make it. But if you also say Africa has so many problems, so Bitcoin has so much potential, then I think you are right too. And there's an example we can learn from, and this example is mobile money. Mobile money, I think, because it's digital money and it's young, we didn't have mobile money 3 years ago. I think Bitcoin can learn a lot of lessons from mobile money, because mobile money has made it in a place where 3 years ago we didn't have financial services and we had all these problems, but mobile money seemed to be a huge success. And I'm just going to go over the reasons why I think mobile money was successful and what lessons we can learn if we are working on Bitcoin projects in areas such as Africa and other developing countries. First of all, mobile money wasn't supposed to work because the people are unemployed. So the people don't have disposable income, as we've learned from Werengai. So they don't have money to put in their mobile money wallets. But the reality was, when mobile money was launched, it worked because there was no unemployment. So because there was no unemployment, the mobile money service providers could get a lot of people to employ and use as mobile money agents. And because we had this huge network of agents, lots of people who had no jobs were ready to sign up as agents instantly. Mobile money became so popular, and we had a mobile money agent on literally every street corner in countries such as Zimbabwe and Kenya and lots of other countries in Africa. Secondly, mobile money was not supposed to work because we didn't have the infrastructure. So people don't have smartphones, and mobile money is digital money. So people don't have internet access, and digital money will need to be transmitted electronically. And so people don't have electricity, and digital money is traded digitally. So people will need electricity. So conventional wisdom will tell us that mobile money was not supposed to work because the people didn't have the infrastructure to use mobile money. But the interesting thing is mobile money worked despite that. In fact, I think the only reason why mobile money worked in Africa was because there was no infrastructure. So, and the reason I say this is it seems to have failed in other countries where the infrastructure was a little bit better than where it worked. And examples are South Africa and some first world countries which have tried to use it. And so, how the mobile money service providers did this was they built a technology which can work and does not need infrastructure. So you can have a very dumb phone or a feature phone, a $10 phone, and you can be able to use that to send money using SMS. And so mobile money service providers managed to leverage this non-existent infrastructure to provide a service which people can start using. The other reason why mobile money was not supposed to work was people didn't know how to use digital money. And so conventional wisdom would tell us that mobile money is going to fail. But the reality was also quite different. Because people didn't know how to use digital money, mobile money operators used this as a big opportunity to come in and educate the market the way they wanted it to understand digital money. And this was huge because now when people hear digital money, they think mobile money. And I believe Bitcoin can learn a lot of lessons from that. Next, the regulators did not know how to regulate mobile money. So one of the reasons why people say Bitcoin may not work in Africa is because they say it's not regulated, it's in a legal gray area, regulators are going to stifle it. But what we've seen with mobile money, and we've seen it in a number of countries in Africa, was the mobile network operators got into the game, and they managed to move faster than the regulators could move, and managed to make a lot of progress. So when the regulator tried to step in and regulate it, everyone was now using it. So regulator kind of had no option but to put in favorable regulations to allow people to continue using a technology which provides people access to basic financial services. And I believe, too, that Bitcoin can learn a lot of lessons from that, especially in areas where Bitcoin is still unregulated. Finally, I'm going to say that one of the big lessons we should learn if we're working on Bitcoin startups in developing countries is not to copy solutions which are designed for places like New York or London or other first world countries and try to paste them in Africa and expect them to work right out of the box. So an example which Werengai gave was Bitcoin is being built right now to work on smartphones. But when you go in developing countries, you see that 80% of the population is working on feature phones. So it makes more sense in those areas to work on solutions like the one Coinapult is building, one which works over SMS and not the internet. So my name is Tawanda Kembo. And
yes, Verengai Mabika once again, and
and we'll be taking questions now. Any questions? Yeah, you can feel free to use the mic.
So my understanding of what you were describing of the mobile money was nothing more of a means to transmit money through SMS messaging. And then at some point along the line, someone cashes it in. Is that the way it works? I'm kind of curious about, like, today, for the very few people who do use Bitcoin, how do they use it? And now you're talking about Africa as a continent. There's a lot of differences there. Like you said, South Africa or Botswana or Zimbabwe, different situations. But I'd be interested to hear on, from the small group that does use Bitcoin in those countries. How do they use it right now?
Well, right now it's mostly used for online transactions as an alternative to credit cards. I'm sure you must know, as Verengai pointed out earlier, that it's very difficult to get a credit card if you are coming from Africa. In fact, a lot of us don't have you don't need a bank account if you are from Africa. And so online transactions, it's very difficult to start paying for stuff online if you are coming from that part of the world. And that's where Bitcoin's biggest potential is, because mobile money in a lot of places still has that limitation that you can't use it for online transactions and cross-border remittances. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and then you also mentioned Coinapult too, right? Which I guess sounds like it's an SMS-based Bitcoin transmission service.
Yep.
Thank you very much. I think we are running out of time, but maybe to quickly add to what Tawanda described, most of the people that we are seeing using Bitcoins in Africa are actually our relatives and friends in the diaspora who are sending money back home. And there is a huge opportunity, of course, to, you know, when they do send that money at a very low cost, and people in the countries then convert that money to fiat money. So those are some of the opportunities that we see with Bitcoin. In Zimbabwe alone, that's like a $3 billion industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you.